You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Well, hey there. Welcome to episode 66. If you happen to catch my last episode on synchronicity, you may know that we traveled to Colorado last week, and it was an amazing experience. I want to give you a quick update on the synchronicity factor, and also some expectations that surfaced around how things might play out. As you may imagine, if you heard the last episode, those things didn't play out exactly as I envisioned that they would. The friends we were going to meet up with had some last-minute things come up, and we all decided it just wasn't the right time after all. Even though it seemed that the universe was aligning for us to do that. I think sometimes these windows of opportunity open, and if it works all the way, great. If it doesn't, also good. I don't think it's meant to be burdensome to see a vision through just because you have the expectation that it will. Maybe the possibility having been presented to us at all was simply a reminder to stay connected. That could be true. So I'll dig more into our expectations here in a minute, but I do want to briefly share the synchronicities that did occur. First, allow me to divulge that I adore both of my parents. I do. Second, my relationship with both of them isn't exactly traditional. You see, they split up when I was around 2 years old, and while I had some visitation here and there with my father growing up, it was sporadic. My mom and I separated when I was 14. And that's the last time that I lived with her. That's what I mean by separated. When she and my stepfather divorced, I lived with him. And he had formally adopted me, and we dropped the step term long before that. So really, the relationship that I have with each of my birth parents has been mostly nurtured in adulthood. As a result, I really don't know as much about them as I thought I did. For example, where they were born. I know it's strange not to have a solid grasp on where your parents were born. I told you it's non-traditional. And here's where the synchronicity comes in. We chose Colorado Springs as our vacation destination. No real reason at the time. Just throwing a pin on the map to someplace drivable from Dallas, perhaps with a bit of a cooler climate and somewhere we've never been before as a family. That was the criteria in a nutshell. Well, when I told my mom about it, she said, "That's where I was born. I've always had a connection to Colorado Springs and I've wanted to return." That's what my mom said to me. And I get choked up thinking about that because I did not know this. Now, I'm not finished. We took the scenic route, and I'm using air quotes there, through Wichita, Kansas. Yes, Wichita. And I'm being completely sarcastic when I say scenic. My husband lived there for a time as a teenager, and he wanted to check it out. Even his parents and siblings were like, "Why?" We checked out Wichita, stopped and ate lunch at the burger joint that he used to work at, literally did a drive-by of some key points of interest, like his old house, his first apartment, school, and I wanted to see the original Pizza Hut building, which, y'all, it's about the size of my closet. And then we kept going north. And I said to him, I thought we were going to spend the night here. And he said, nope, I see this place is a dump, and we're going to go north to the next town to stay. Now, my apologies to anyone listening in Wichita. He said it. That was a decision in the moment on his part. And the boy and I were just passengers along for the ride. So, okay, we're going to Salina? Not long after I posted on Facebook about our lunch, my dad texted me that he was amazed I was in the state of his birth. And I thought, what? Then I remembered that, yes, I did know he was born in Kansas, but damn, putting that together with our destination being my mom's birthplace, it was almost surreal. Then what happened next just did me in. I texted him back that we were still on the road for a bit because we were headed to another city to stay overnight in some place called Salina. And he texted back, I was born in Salina. I thought, no fucking way. This trip, which we thought was simply random, turned out to be not at all random. I ended up visiting both of my parents' birthplaces on accident. How amazing is that? Well, there are no accidents, right? Right. Dad, if you're listening, I'm still on board with that notion. And there was a reason I was led to those places, and I'm here for it. I feel just a little bit more connected to both of my parents as a result. That in itself is so very meaningful. So let's dig into the expectations that we have of ourselves, others, and life in general. I've kind of shared a couple of examples in my opening. That wasn't just me thinking, let me take some time to talk about myself and how my summer is going. No, it was intentional to share a few scenarios of what my own expectations have been, both past and present. I expected that we would stay in Wichita overnight. I expected that we would meet our friends while in Colorado. As a child, I expected to grow up in an intact nuclear family. And you know what? There is absolutely nothing wrong with having a belief or even a desire that your life will play out a certain way, or that others will show up in the way that you want them to. I'm just talking in general about everyday stuff here now, friends, not referring to anyone in particular, I swear. There's nothing wrong with envisioning or desiring a certain outcome. In fact, that can be a good thing. Where we need to be careful is having attachment to the outcome. That's what I've learned through my own direct experiences, through my clients, through all of my relationships over my lifetime, through my continued learning, growth, and a hell of a lot of practice. Practice means you're going to fall on your face a few times until you get it right, by the way. I've learned that we need to release our attachment to the outcome. We can have hopes and dreams and plans and schemes. That is encouraged. In fact, we could inspire ourselves to do more of that envisioning every day. Yet, when things don't work out exactly as we would have liked them to, we end up having thoughts about that, don't we? And with thoughts come those sometimes pesky emotions. We might end up feeling frustrated, resentful, unfortunate. Just remember that you are only feeling that because you thought that everything was going to play out according to the script that you wrote in your mind. You thought that every character in your movie was going to show up on time for their scene and nail their lines perfectly. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. That's not how life works. Remember, everyone else has their own version of their own movie playing out, and you are not in the starring role of that one. I'm just touching on others briefly. If you're a returning listener, this may be a recap for you, though I personally don't think our expectations of other people can be discussed too much. Often we don't even realize that's what we're doing. Anyway, I'll come back to the others. Let's start with ourselves. What are you going through life expecting of you? And it's a good segue into talking about others because honestly, I want you to consider how much of what you do is attached to what you think others will see in you, how you think they will perceive you. Can we do both at once? I don't know. This is a one-way conversation today, so I don't know what you're up for, but I want you to consider it. What are you expecting of you, and how much of that is wound up in tight little knots of how you think you will be perceived by others? Here's where all of the should language will likely creep in, and that's it's to be expected. I've said before that when we use should, it's a judgment. I learned that trick along the way, and it's been very helpful for me to catch myself when I say it and explore what I'm really thinking, why I'm really bothered, if I'm bothered when I say or think that I should. And it's all the same. We say we should, or he should, she should, they should, it should, when we expect a certain outcome. And we may even be attached to it because we have a judgment about it. It's all connected. Here's an example I was thinking of during one of my walks earlier this week. When I was younger, I expected of myself that I should get into religion. And by get into, I mean resonate with the teachings, the rituals, the culture, all of it. Specifically, Catholicism was the last time I danced around with Christianity in general. My boyfriend at the time was Catholic, and his mother in particular was very devout. And I had somehow come to the conclusion that I would be a good person, a good girl, if I were aligned with a church. My attachment in this example was my very identity. I would be good. I would be accepted. I would be saved. It didn't seem that very many of the quote-unquote good people in my life at the time, at least in the circles I was in, did not belong to a church. So I tried. I tried really, really hard, I'm telling you. But no matter how hard I tried, I could never force that connection. It just wasn't there for me. Reading ancient scripts did not inspire me. Listening to sermons and singing hymns felt so rigid and just wrong to me. I did hang on to that idea of being a good church-going Christian long enough to be baptized. So I don't know, maybe I am saved, if that's what you believe. You see, belief is tied into all of this too, in a big way, really, because where do our beliefs come from? Our conditioning, at least initially. When we can uncover the beliefs we find that no longer serve us and get to work on changing them. And yes, that's another topic in itself. And yes, that's something that I work with my clients on. I had an expectation that if I could identify as Catholic, then I would be good. And I was attached to that outcome. It took years to unravel that one. And as I shared in an earlier episode, what I ended up really connecting with was Native American spirituality. Being in nature over being in a building and honoring all living things. The complete opposite end of the spectrum, and that's what resonated with me on a soul level. I'm not saying that Christianity doesn't honor all living things. What I'm saying is that the earth and the environment and all of the creatures are the church. So just like Christianity or another religion may resonate with you on a soul level, it's all good. Whatever works for you, I'm here for it and I will honor it. My religion is kindness and compassion for all beings. It's that simple. And I've really worked with my self-acceptance to not only come to terms with and embrace that part of myself, even to the degree that I'm sharing that publicly now, because for a long time it was kind of my secret. I didn't want anyone to think I was a heathen for not feeling the same way they did. Ah, there it is. There's the segue into other people. And it's not only about what we think other people will think of us, which I've discussed here before, and I'm sure I will again, but it's also the expectations that we have for others. This is not a one-sided phenomenon, my friends. We play a role on the opposite side as well. We expect others to behave a certain way, and we create attachments. At times, we attach to our own self-worth, to outcomes over which we have zero control. It's fascinating. This is especially prevalent in parent-child relationships, right? I had expectations for my parents the same way I'm sure my son has expectations for me. And I most certainly have expectations for him. One more quick scenario to share from our Colorado trip, because it didn't occur to me in the moment what I had done as a parent. It only came to me on further reflection, which happens a lot, right? We did get to meet up with my beautiful cousin for a couple of hours one afternoon. That was a blessing. She is stunning. Shout out to her for showing up as I expected her to. It was our first time meeting in real life. I'm telling you, my family dynamics are a little different, and that's okay. It really is. It's unique. It's rich. My husband likes to joke that drawing out my family tree looks more like one of those boards for solving a crime. Lots of yarn in every direction. Anyway, my cousin brought her two youngest kids with her, who are 12 and 14. Our son is 12, so I was kind of excited for him to meet a cousin his age on my dad's side. We arrived just a little early, and we were seated at a long table, because I honestly wasn't certain how many of my relatives were coming. I want you to know that the boy plopped himself at the head of that table so that he had lots of separation from all of these strangers when they walked in a few minutes later. So there I was, simultaneously trying to visit with my cousin while also nudging the boy to move himself down to the end of the table where the other kids were. This went on for the first 15-20 minutes, maybe longer. Then he finally moved with lots of eye rolling and shoulder slumping, and he later smirked for a couple of photos. The consensus from the photos that came of our time together was that Connor looks thrilled. Sarcasm. Look, you're going to have to accept that I am human and got lost in the moment. It really didn't hit me what I had done until after it was all over. And my husband told me to tell my cousin how impressed he was that her kids were engaged and polite, kind of inferring that ours was not, which I completely agreed with. But then I got to thinking, what exactly were we trying to do with our son? Were we trying to force him to be someone he didn't want to be in that moment? To project an image? I mean, he was very likely nervous and didn't know what to say. I didn't put myself in his shoes when this visit was going down. None of us did, really. I just expected him to engage and, oh my God, be himself, in air quotes, for just a little while. Not to shut down because he didn't know what to say, but to feel the fear and do it anyway. Ugh. I failed to keep in mind that he is his own unique person, and he doesn't have to earn his worth by engaging with complete strangers over dinner because his parents expect that of him. I'm telling you, if you keep your eyes and your heart open to all of the lessons that are out there to learn from others, you will be amazed, and especially by the children. When they are very young, they don't hold back. They say exactly what they mean. We think it's adorable, and they think they're just speaking their truth, as it should be. Yes, as it should be for our entire lives, but is not. Because as they get a little older, and I see where Connor is now, that societal conditioning starts creeping in, stripping your individuality and self-confidence in small, subtle ways, like your parents directing you to engage in conversation because that's what they expect you to do. Damn, it took me a couple of days to untangle that one so I could really see it, and it was not easy to look at, I'm telling you. I had to remind myself of this Bruce Lee quote, "I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you're not in this world to live up to mine." As adamant and at times downright defiant as I am about living life on my own terms after all of the years that I did not allow myself to, here I am projecting on my son how he should show up. Yes, there are things like manners and etiquette and social graces that as parents we want to expose our kids to so that they have some tools to navigate life when we are not around. That was certainly the intent in the moment from our perspective. There's also having an awareness that perhaps he deserves to be comfortable expressing himself however he sees fit, as long as it isn't harmful, right? Not going to lie, if he hadn't finally begrudgingly moved down to the end of the table, I would have walked out of there all up in my head about what everyone else thought of him. Well, Connor taught me a little something about my own awareness of the needs of others. All of the others. I have the pictures to remind me of that lesson. So, what about life in general? Well, that's going to be a lovely combination, a tapestry, if you will, of the expectations you have of yourself, of others, and I think just the world. How your life unfolds alongside everything else that is happening around you. For example, we expect that we are going to live happy and fulfilling lives. That can be true overall. It's just that not all of the moments are going to be happy and fulfilling. That isn't possible. Life is a contrast. There will be times of disappointment, grief, and loss. That's unavoidable. No one gets out of here alive. We expect that our elected officials will make decisions and take actions that will be for the greater good of humanity. Or maybe some of you listening want to take it down to the best interest of your household, your own family. There's no right or wrong answer, just playing with concepts here. We expect that our neighbors will be good ones, whatever that means to you. Good fences or good interactions. We expect that our loved ones are going to show up a certain way, whether it's our parents, our siblings, our significant others, our children. We expect the traffic is going to flow smoothly so that we will make our appointments on time and fully intact. One little glitch in the matrix of these expectations can send us spinning if we are attached to the outcome. I just want to reiterate that it's okay to expect things to play out a certain way and drive home for you that when you are unattached to the outcome, it's a much easier space to live and ultimately to thrive in. As Rumi says, whoever has heart's doors wide open, could see the sun itself in every atom. I chose that quote for today's topic because that's how I see releasing attachment to the outcome. Having your heart open, ready to receive whatever the universe, God, source, spirit is sending your way. It's about acknowledging that we might think we know the best outcome and even all of the steps along the way, but there is a greater power at work. And that power is also a part of you. If you keep your heart's doors wide open, you never know what might be waiting to light you up. It could be a deep realization on a soul level, or it could be a gentle lesson from a child. Either way, if you tune into your body and really listen, you will find the answers, eventually. Those answers are not always immediate, so be patient with yourself. No one gets out of here alive. The question will simply be, have we lived? Have we lived the life true to ourselves? Or have we spent it wrapped up in all of these expectations? Expect whatever you want to, yet also expect the unexpected, right? It's so true. I hope the stories I've shared today have been helpful. Feel free to replace my anecdotes with your own as you process this. What represents your church or your dinner table? What can you take away from your own experiences to further help you navigate this beautiful, messy life? Most of all, what has happened for you out of those experiences? That is truly the most important thing of all. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. Check the show notes for ways to connect. I would also be so honored if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts so that others may find this message too. Until then, light up, shine on,